Save the Semantics, episode 307. It is April 15th, 2025. My name is Myra. This is the podcast where I ramble on for a bit about some shit. Recording this on a Tuesday morning, which is not the usual time that I would be recording this, but I was planning originally on recording yesterday, the usual time that I tend to record, but I just was not. I had a weird weekend, so I'm just kind of like, just sort of decided to sort of, put it off a little bit. I wanted to give a more of an initial reaction to, or a closer reaction to when the Warriors and Clippers game happened on Sunday, but I decided to record today and this morning instead. By the time this comes out, it's going to be dated because I think what I'm going to plan to do is I'm going to post this alongside my reactions to the play-in games from later tonight. I'm going to record something tomorrow and talk about that. But anyways, just wanted to kind of get, my thoughts out before, again, by the time I'm going to combine this with, my reactions from later on, so it might be dated, but I still wanted to kind of share them, and who knows, some of this might age very poorly, but we will see. It was a really tough game on Sunday, really tough game between Warriors and Clippers. I had a lot of I was pretty worried about the game going into it, just considering the fact that we have not played well, this Clippers team, and this is something that I've been saying, like Zubats owns this matchup. They have a lot of versatile wings, especially with the Kawhi, like Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. They have a ton of these wings that they can kind of throw at Steph. Steph Hill still had a barrage in the fourth quarter, it just wasn't enough. But I think there were, looking back on this, I watched this game with some friends, which was a fun time. Just unfortunately, it ended up in a loss. But just sort of recollecting and then also replaying some of the parts of the game from Sunday. What I kind of remember is that there were definitely some significant plays down the stretch that could have clearly turned this tide in the Warriors' favor. There were some weird take fouls that Draymond had, which I was just like, I would kind of rather live with. In the case, this was like the end of the fourth quarter. It was like one of the last possessions that the Clippers had. The shot clock was running down. And, I feel like you could have just had Kawhi take a shot, and if he made it, he made it, instead of having him kind of hit not hit the final shot, but have the last shot of the game, at least at the end of regulation. So I was I was a little weird about that. I would rather take the risk of Kawhi hitting the shot and then having another chance to come back and either tie or win the game, you know what I mean? Or if Kawhi missed, then that would give us another chance to get the last possession of the game. So that was kind of weird. Obviously, there was that Draymond miss in the overtime. That was a whole thing, right? Steph had a really bad turnover after getting trapped in the corner in overtime as well. Steph and Draymond had a couple of really bad turnovers in the fourth and in overtime. So little mistakes here and there, but you could argue big mistakes considering where it ended up at the end there. But I do believe that I think just in general, the Clippers they just outplayed the Warriors in that game. They had just some incredible performances from Kawhi and James Harden. He's so annoying when he plays well, but you just have to kind of respect it. He took over in overtime. Nobody could stop him at all. But they just outplayed the Warriors. I think there are a lot of things that you could absolutely criticize the Warriors for not doing, or just doing, making mistakes. I think I don't know why Moody wasn't in at the end of the game. Like, Gary Payton just couldn't really do anything against Harden at all, and Moody had some nice moments, at least in the first half, and maybe he got gassed, but I still feel like you could have at least tried to bring him in because he did have a pretty good game overall. So I didn't, it's like they didn't really adjust accordingly towards like the end of the game there. And then on top of that, like the Clippers, I think this is just like the biggest thing, was just like the rebound discrepancy. It was like, I think they showed the graphic I think it was either towards the end of regulation or in overtime. It was like 40-24 in rebounds. And I think that was kind of the game, really. There was one sequence where the Clippers had like 3 separate like offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities, and they did take advantage of that, and it was just like that feels like that was kind of the whole game in kind of a nutshell there. Like, they just have the size advantage. They have the size advantage where it sort of matters too, because Zubats just plays incredibly well against us. And then on top of that, like I said, their wings just had a really, they really had an impact in this game. So it was tough, man. Like, there are things you can absolutely criticize the Warriors for not doing, and for, just making mistakes down the stretch, right? But Jimmy had a great game. Steph picked it up in the fourth. Overall, I think the players that did contribute, I mean, it was just down to it was a 5-point game at the end there, so it could have swung either way, honestly. I just think at the end of the overtime period was sort of the obvious determinant factor with Harden taking over. But it could have gone both ways. I just think that there were just some little mistakes here and there. It's like, how much of that can you really put on the Warriors side? Like, you know what I mean? I think this was just a game where the Clippers just played better. And that was it, man. That was kind of it sucks. It's tough, but the better team won in this scenario here. So obviously, it was sucked. It was very disappointing. Me and my friends were kind of like, we had to like walk it off to deal with it. But it is what it is, man. Now it's just later tonight. You just have to kind of see how they're going to respond. I hope that they can really pull off a convincing win against Memphis. We are sort of in a similar situation to what we were like 3 seasons ago when the play-ins sort of first started. Where the Warriors lost eventually to like this sort of up and coming Grizzlies team, and were knocked out of the play-ins altogether. I don't want to see that. Obviously, they have 2 more chances with this game, and then if they do lose, which I hopefully doesn't happen, they do have a chance to play against whoever wins the 9-10 matchup. But I don't want it to be that scenario. They should take care of business. You know what I mean? And again, who knows? Maybe this is like the more favorable matchup if they do win and go against the Rockets. I've had kind of my reservations. At first I was kind of, on that boat, but now I am kind of like, I do like our chances there, but it's not going to be easy if that happens. But regardless of that, they still need to take care of business against the Grizzlies here. So it just really has to be, that has to be the focus. Really taking care of business and winning this game. Bring that kind of same energy to what they did on Sunday, that kind of playoff like atmosphere and that kind of thing. And understand that this Grizzlies team is not as good as the Clippers team. They do not have the same the same depth. They do not have the same high end talent. Like, sure, they do have, of course, they have Ja and Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr. But I do think the Clippers higher end of players are better when a Kawhi, Harden, and Zubats. So, and then on top of that, just the playoff experience, all that stuff, right? The veteran experience of like the Clippers, I think you would fear a little bit more in comparison to this Grizzlies team, although the Grizzlies have had, playoff experience over the past few years or so, except for last year. So I don't know. I really hope that they can use that, the Warriors can use that to their advantage and win against this team, because I think that that's going to be taken into account. I do think that, the last game that they played, Steph had a 50-point game. I don't know if it's going to be the same result, but he was able to kind of take advantage of certain matchups in that case. And so maybe that will be something to keep an eye out for. And then hopefully Jimmy's going to be okay. He had like a little collision at the end there with Kawhi, which sucked to see, but based on his comments, he seems to be okay. So hopefully he's okay for tonight. But man, dude, it was a tough watch, man. It was a tough watch, but you just got to move on to this game. Moving on. Also playing, and I'll see if I can catch some of it, is the Hawks and Magic game. Maybe not the most interesting matchup, but you could argue that with the tandem of like Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, that kind of the Magic sort of have it in a bag. But you never know, man. Like Trae Young kind of is a you could argue is sort of like a playoff / postseason riser. He has shown in the past that he can turn it up in more games that have more, just more weight to them and that kind of thing. So you could just wait to see how that goes. I'm excited to see how some of the younger players look for the Hawks with either Reese Hachey and a Dyson Daniels. Like I do want to see how they kind of fit into this mold. Like I think Daniels could have somewhat of an impact, although you could argue he doesn't exactly have like a perfect matchup for him in terms of like a guard. Like he's not going to be guarding Banchero or Wagner, I don't think, right? Maybe there might be some switches where he's put on them, but just size-wise, the Magic just have a huge advantage in that sense. So we'll see how that goes. That might be interesting. But yeah, we're in it. We're in postseason basketball, which is like really crazy to say. And we're here. I'm really excited to really delve into the matchups. Playoffs officially start on Saturday, but we still have the slew of play-in games coming up. And I think we also have the what is it? So tonight we have obviously the 7-8 matchups, and then on Wednesday we have the 9-10 matchups, right? And I think, is it Thursday or Friday? I think is then the game that's sort of that would determine who the 8th seed will be in both conferences, I think. So I think it's either Thursday or Friday, but we'll see. We'll see that. I do want to talk more. I kind of want to save this conversation for when the matchups are fully set. And I kind of want to, I want to spend a little bit more time than right now talking about the matchups that are already set up with the 4-5 and 3-6 matchups. Because I do think both of those are pretty interesting. But yeah, I think, I'm really excited for the Eastern Conference matchups. I think those look pretty fascinating in the case of the Pacers, Bucks, and then the Knicks Pistons. I think both of those look just pretty exciting to kind of keep an eye out on. Just because I those are the matchups that I wanted and I got them. So I'll delve into that a little bit more as as we sort of get it closer to the weekend and closer to Saturday. Maybe I'll talk about them tomorrow. We'll see. I'll see kind of how I handle things. But yeah, later tonight, exciting stuff. Again, by the time this goes out, this section of the podcast is going to be dated. But I did want to talk about that because I wanted to talk about it a little earlier. The Clippers Warriors game, but it is what it is. I'll talk about some my reactions to the Warriors and Memphis game, maybe the Orlando game as well. But yeah, I will get into that in a little bit, and probably later, maybe tomorrow if I get the chance. So I'll save that until later, and until then, it's just gonna be right over. I'm just gonna, how this works. All right, recording this on April 16th. It is Wednesday. I'll try to make this quick because we're basically ready to move on to the proper playoffs. There are like 2 more sets of play-in games. So we have a couple tonight. One basically happening right about now with the Bulls and the Heat. And then I think tomorrow? No, it's Friday. We're going to have like the final play-in game. So the final play-in games rather for the 8th seed. So that will be, and then we just Saturday move right into the playoffs. But let's talk about the Warriors and the Grizzlies. Warriors eked it out at the end there. Not exactly the most convincing fashion, but look, win's a win. We are finally solidified in the playoffs. We finally won a play-in game after years of not succeeding in that. So that feels nice. It feels nice. How we got to that point wasn't exactly the best. Warriors had like a 20-point lead sort of around, partway through the first half, and then just kind of let that go as is fashion. It felt very much in line with kind of how the rest of the season went earlier on, with just the fact that the team just could not hold, large leads and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was I was getting pretty tense and pretty stressed. I was like, listen, man, this feels too reminiscent of everything that has happened before then. I think it would have been more frustrating in this case, because in the scenario, or in the previous game with the Clippers, I felt like in that case it was, we were handedly beat by the Clippers. In this case, it was just the Warriors just making mistakes and just these little things here and there. Obviously, the reffing didn't help. It's just I hate, I hate to talk about the officials. Just the unfortunate fact is that there were some incredibly just terrible calls made down the stretch, and it was just so poor. Some non-existent calls were made. The call against Looney late was especially egregious. Like, that was just the awful stuff. But I look, they also did make some small mistakes here and there. Jimmy had a great game. He came through. Playoff Jimmy came through. But he did have like a really bad turnover at the end of the game there. And then also Draymond had these like really, I don't know why he fouled them. It was like 50 seconds left. I think it was like a 5. I don't even remember. It was 2-possession game, but it was just like there was no reason to foul. Like he's had a couple of these the last couple of games where it's like I don't know about that decision to foul there. It got really tight. They did pull it through. Steph had some miraculous shots there in the second half, and in the fourth. So they pulled through, and here we are in the playoffs. And I think talking about this matchup against the Rockets. That's something that I kind of want to delve into a little later, because I think it's worthwhile talking about what exactly it's going to look like. I don't think it's going to be easy. I do, as I said before, I do feel that the Warriors will pull this one off, but it's going to be a hard fought, like, 6-game series, in my opinion. I think that the experience will prevail. The fact, you just, I think if you are on the Rockets side, I just don't have the most confidence in someone like a Jalen Green or Şengün could do something, but like they just don't have. I'm basically following in line with what a lot of people saying, and just having watched them over the course of the season, they just don't have that guy. They just don't. Jalen Green is good, but he's inconsistent. He just hasn't. There hasn't been a moment where I'm like, holy crap, this guy could really, you know what I mean? Last year, he had a stretch where it looked like he was sort of like an all-star caliber player, but he just can't do it consistently over the course of an entire season. And especially in a kind of a pressure cooker playoff type situation, I don't know how well he's going to handle that. And they do have, players that they can use, and an Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, and all that to stifle some of the Warriors' offense and sort of suppress Steph. But I just, if you want to kind of take the approach of like, hey, listen, let them try to do their thing. Let's try to have them play make down the stretch, and see what they can pull off. You know what I mean? And I think they'll run into some trouble there. But listen, we'll see how things go. Just the fact that they don't have like a certified like star on their team. They do have an all-star in Şengün, but a certified like superstar star player that they can kind of go to, I think is sort of, you can see what the ceiling on this team is, right? Unless Green somehow emerges to be that kind of caliber of player, I just don't see them getting through in this series, and I especially don't see them really getting far into like the playoffs, like not into like the, not really a conference finals run or anything like that. I would be shocked to see if that happens, but we'll see how that goes. And I'll delve into that a little bit more as we get closer to the playoffs, which start Saturday, and then I think the Warriors Rockets game will be on Sunday. I'll confirm that later, but I'll talk. I'll get into that a little bit more later. The remaining play-in teams right now, as I mentioned, you got the 9-10 matchups right now. You got the Bulls and the Heat, and then you got the Kings and the Mavericks. Sometimes you have some fun games here and there. Last year, you had the Kings-Warriors game. I mean, that was kind of a disaster for the Warriors because they got blown out, and Clay went 0 for 11. So that was not good. But who knows? Like, this could be some fun matchups. I do like Chicago's chances. I think they're a fun team. It would be, out of all of the remaining Eastern Conference teams, I think I would want to take a team like Chicago to go up against the Cavaliers. The way in which the Hawks played against the Magic last night, they got blown out by the Magic. The Magic are going to play the Celtics. That is probably not going to be the most interesting series. I feel like the Celtics are probably going to run away with it. But in the 1-8 matchup, the Hawks, they're too shallow of a team right now, especially without Jalen Johnson. They just have so much like defensive limitations. I feel like that just would be such a clear sweep if the Cavs got them. If the Bulls played against the Cavs, I feel like at least maybe they could pull off one game with a Kobe White or a Josh Giddey just going off and pulling them through. But outside of that, I don't like the Heat. I just don't like the way they play. They're just not a fun team to watch. They're just, out of all the teams, they're so uninteresting to me. So, yeah, out of all of them, I'll take the Bulls to pull through and win tonight, and then win against the Hawks on Friday. Um, I I think on the other side for the Western Conference, the whoever's going to get the eighth seed, out of a Memphis, Dallas, and Sacramento, it's like, oh man, it's just that's just none of those series with the Thunder is gonna really be, it's like, okay, maybe you could call like a dark horse sort of thing with like Dallas because they do have, you know, Anthony Davis and stuff like that, but they just do not have the guard play with Kyrie out. Like they just don't have, like, who's gonna guard? I mean, I guess they could throw PJ Washington and Najee Marshall. They do have players they could use to guard Shea, but outside of that, it's just like it's kind of a mess of a team considering how their season went. I also just kind of want to put that team out of their misery for their fan base's sake. So I don't know, man. It's just I don't want to see the Mavericks either. So I guess it will come down to the Grizzlies and the Kings. I just don't have any faith in the Kings to do anything, so that's probably going to be a sweep. And then the Grizzlies, maybe six games at most. But I don't. They have something with their kind of double big sort of lineup. That caused some trouble yesterday, but it just didn't really pan out. But I just don't see how they're gonna handle OKC, and especially the way the Thunder defend. It's like, who's gonna, maybe Bane is gonna have to have a crazy series, and Jaws also, running on a freaking twisted ankle, and on top of all the other injuries he's been dealing with. It's just I don't like any of those matchups at all. So whoever the Thunder is gonna get, yeah, that's gonna be. Probably gonna be the least interesting series, maybe along with whoever the Cavs play. So, yeah, that's that. Yeah, we are sort of, things are getting kind of situated. The last remaining play-in spot will be determined by Friday. So, obviously, I'll be checking in on that tomorrow. I think it's just sort of a day off and nothing's going on right. I'll have to confirm that. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of shakes up, and then we can officially kind of get into sort of the full matchups. And I'm excited for just playoff basketball. I really am. But I am looking forward to seeing the rest of the games tonight as well, and talking about that maybe tomorrow as well. But yeah, I'm gonna post this and the what I recorded yesterday, and then get this posted up tonight. Obviously, some things might not age well. If the Bulls don't win, that's gonna be kind of, well, that's too bad. But it is what it is, man. It's playing. Those remaining teams are not very good, but maybe there could be a surprise there. There's no zombie heat this time around, but who knows? Maybe there could be a surprise candidate there. Anyways, I'll leave it off at that. I'll delve into some more stuff later, either tomorrow or going into the weekend before the playoffs start off proper. And yeah, just really excited, and just wanted to kind of just come on quick and talk quickly about give my impressions on the Warriors, Grizzlies, and stuff. But yeah, we'll get into that more later. Anyways, that's going to do for this episode. Thanks for listening, as always. This has been Save the Semantics, signing off.